Hey, welcome to Spirit Soul Sense, Information for Your Soul. I am Shareece, and in this video, I'm going to be talking to you about what it is that I did to pass the Eppp the first time. But bigger than the tips about passing the Eppp, I want to leave with you the greatest point, that fear can control our lives and lead to disastrous outcomes. What we must do in our lives, no matter what we're doing, like you don't have to be a psychologist, you don't have to be studying for a big licensing exam, whatever it is that you want to accomplish in your life. If you are experiencing fear, you need to release that fear so that your life can flourish, so that you can let in joy and peace. So you are going to have to do all the self-care things to help reduce your anxiety. And then I want you to shift your thinking from I want to pass, to how high you can pass. Because you can get much higher than 500 or 550, depending on which state you're in. Think bigger, like think higher. Think how much higher, because it goes up to a max of 800. Think how close can I get to 800? Don't think, how can I just get 500? Because then you'll barely make 500. Think about how much higher can I get than the minimum, right? I want you to shift the thinking from scarcity to abundance. And then for this exam in particular, I don't want you to think of it as an exam of general knowledge. And they'll tell you this is not an exam of general knowledge. This is honestly, the way I frame it is this is an exam of test taking ability. I've always been a really good test taker, so that helps. You follow the rules. What I'm telling you is the rule is answer the question the way they want it. Don't answer the question based on what you think is the best answer. So if you are not white, then you likely have a certain set of perspectives and experiences in this world that are not reflected on this exam. And so they're really not asking what would be the best thing for you to do. They're asking what would be their thought of what the best thing is to do. So like one of the questions they asked was, you have a client who comes into you like for the initial like diagnostic interview, and they have like some really negative beliefs about religion or women. I can't remember what it was, but this person has like a lot of negative beliefs. And of the 4 choices, they want to know if you're going to keep this client, do it on a trial basis, if you're not going to see this client, if you're going to see this client and get supervision, and one other thing. And the correct answer is not see the client. Now, if you have any experiences like me, you know that you've been put in positions where your clients have likely feared you, hated you, and you really feel like you don't have much choice in accepting them. I'm telling you right now, put those experiences aside and view this exam as an exam of test-taking ability. How much of the right answer that they want can you remember? So if you check down in the description box, you'll see I compiled like a bunch of data on what I did and documented it so I could help other people, because I care about y'all. I just care about y'all. But I think it's very helpful when you look at the statistics of people who pass the first time, who don't, the kind of programs they come from. I am from a Psy.D program. I'm also Black. I'm not from the continental US. I don't know another language. But if English is not your first language, then that too can trip you up in this exam, because the questions are wordy and they're worded in a kind of confusing way. So you need to be familiar with the type of questions that they're going to ask so that when you see it, you know what answer they want. I think the general information that they have out there is very helpful on how to pass the exam the first time. So I went on a student forum where people were, giving their personal experiences of how many hours they studied, what they used to study, and what score they got on the exam. So the number of 200 hours is, I think, very helpful. The research doesn't show that much more above 200, like 300 hours is not going to significantly improve your score than staying around 200 hours. 200 hours is like 3 months of studying like every day. Like 200 hours is a lot, but you need to do it. And so I'm gonna tell you, like if you are not, there's outliers for everything, right? But if you are gunning for 3 months of studying like almost every day, 2 or 3 hours, then you are on the right track. Also, what I found was that there was no consensus on what people use to study. So I use AATBS to study. I think that's academic something. But there's a few others. There's like Psych Prep, Academic Review. People were using all sorts of different ones and still passing. So I'm convinced that it really doesn't matter which one you use. You just need to be familiar with the questions that they're going to ask you. And I think the AATBS has harder, wordier. The questions are longer than the other study guides. The questions on the actual exam are not long and wordier. However, I found them to be very helpful because they were harder. I think they were harder than the exam. And so if I knew more, then I was, gonna be really prepared for the actual exam. So the practice exams are, I think, vital. I think if that's all you use to study, you will probably pass. But I had the workbooks, but old workbooks, I think from 2018, 2016 or older. A lot of the information about psychology doesn't really change. The research part does. So they cite a lot of research in the exam. I mean, when you first learn about psychology, you learn about all these theories and the studies that they did to get their theoretical conclusions. But because we're practicing, we already know the theoretical conclusions. Why do we need to know all the studies? You can lament on that fact, or you can memorize the studies that they want. I encourage you, memorize the studies that they want and take the exam so you can pass. This is not about general knowledge, because if you already have your doctorate, then you already know this information. This is not about general, this is about test taking abilities. So just do what it is that you need to do. I'm not against people who, want to pioneer change or anything like that. I do have a critique on the part 2 of the licensing process. I really don't think it's necessary for psychologists to have to jump through even more hoops. I did not have to take the part 2, so I'm so sorry. I cannot give you any insight on that. I did take my exam in the year of COVID-19, which is like another stressor on top. So I had to wear a mask when I went to my testing facility. My exam was canceled the first time, which was a blessing in disguise because I was not ready. I was so scared. I was not ready. I had not logged enough hours to really say that I was competent and ready to take this exam. And so when they canceled it, it was what I needed. I was stressed at the time, wanting to just be over and done with it. But I think if I had taken it when I was supposed to, when I had first registered, I probably would not have passed. So doing the practice exams over and over again were really, really helpful for me. I did take the practice Eppp online because I was scared. Because we have to assuage our anxiety somewhere. There's only so many Epsom salt baths and so much running and eating vegetables can do. Sometimes I need to, let me take this practice exam. If you pass the practice Eppp online, or you go to the facility to sit for it, you will pass the exam. You're not gonna fail that and then fail the exam, because the questions on the practice exam are literally what they're asking on the real exam. So if you pass that, I want you to take a deep breath, because it's a really, really good indicator that you are going to pass the final, a good indicator you'll pass the Eppp. And so that's what I saw in the forum, because it was helpful to me. I didn't have a study group. I don't really like study groups. I didn't have a study group, so I wasn't getting feedback on what other people were doing in this moment. But over the years, this forum has logged so many people who've passed and passed the first time, and people who didn't pass the first time, they explain what it is that they did and what they were doing differently to pass the second time. I know people who failed twice, 3 times. It's really not a reflection of your competence as a psychologist. I will say it's probably a reflection of your test-taking abilities, but you don't have to have good test-taking abilities to be a psychologist. What you need to do, though, is focus on the test-taking strategies of passing this exam, because I think that's where success lies. That's where you'll get it. But beyond that, because I also know people who've done this exactly, but did not work on the anxiety portion. Anxiety, fear can be a big controlling factor in your life. You don't want to run out of time You don't want to get stuck. You don't want to have a panic attack. All those things you can work on now before you're taking the exam, so that when you're there, you're in the moment. Your hands are not shaking. You're not having trouble breathing, especially with wearing a mask. You are there and you're attentive, and you said, you know what? I am going to see how close to 800 I can get. You're going to shoot past it. You're going to knock through the goal of what it is that you need. And yeah, in the end, it's like you pass. But if your goal is to shoot past the minimum, then you're going to shoot past it. Don't let fear control you. I am sending you all the positive energy in the world, because this exam is stressful. It's like one of the most stressful things I've done. What was the last stressful thing I did? I think my oral exam. I have another video about my oral exam. I feel that the first time. Anxiety, self-sabotage, perfectionism. Get a handle on it before you take this exam, because all of that will set you up for failure. If all you're being motivated by is fear of this exam, you will pass it. You've already gone this far. You did a dissertation. You did an internship. You will pass it. I believe in you, and I'm sending you all the positive energy. So if you're new to my channel, please subscribe. I have a lot of other really good content. A lot of it is abundance mindset type stuff, positive, being a good person, increasing the joy in your life. Please share this video with someone you think it may help. And thank you for watching.